All right, if you're in B2B sales, you've probably been there. You're passionately explaining all the incredible value your product brings, and the customer just looks at you and says, yeah, but what's the price? It feels like you're speaking two totally different languages, right? Well, today, we're going to decode that. We're diving deep into the psychology of how businesses actually make decisions, and we're using some fantastic insights from The Customer Science Handbook by Alexander Chernev, who's a marketing professor over at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management. So, here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we're going to bust a huge myth about B2B buying, one that's probably costing you sales. Then, we're going to meet the real committee of people who are actually pulling the strings on these decisions. And finally, the part you've been waiting for, we're going to give you a game plan to take the conversation away from price and focus it on the real hard dollar value you deliver. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the B2B myth. You know the one I'm talking about? This idea that business decisions are just cold, hard logic. It's all about spreadsheets and nothing else. But what if that's just plain wrong? I mean, it's what we all assume, right? Business buying is just about the numbers, the bottom line. But here's the thing. The Customer Science Handbook argues this view isn't just a little off. It's actually dangerous. Believing that myth, that it's all about logic, might be exactly why you're losing deals you should be winning. So let's look at this comparison. Over on one side, you've got your typical consumer decision. It's often one person, it's emotional, and they're probably not an expert. Then you look at business decisions. Whoa. Multiple people, it's all about functional needs, performance is key, and the buyer knows their stuff. It definitely looks more structured, more formal. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. Just because it's less about I want it and more about we need it, doesn't mean it's not made by actual human beings. And that right there is the insight that changes the whole game. Think about it. The executive who's about to sign off on a multi-million-dollar purchase, that's the same person who just this morning probably picked their coffee brand out of habit or loyalty. It's the same brain making both calls. People don't just switch off their human biases and behaviors when they walk into the office. The key is to realize you're not selling to a robot. You're selling to a person, and it just need to understand the unique pressures and rules of their professional world. Right. So that brings us to our next big idea, the buying committee. Because let's be real, you're never just selling to a logo on a building. You are always selling to a group of people inside it. And in almost any B2B deal that matters, you're not talking to just one person. You're dealing with what's called a decision-making unit, or a DMU for short. And this isn't just one point of contact. Oh no, it's a whole group of people. You've got folks from finance, from IT, from marketing, and every single one of them has their own priorities, their own headaches, and their own idea of what success looks like. And inside this DMU, everyone plays a different part. You've got your initiator, that's the person who first says, hey, we have a problem. Then come the influencers, the people whispering advice and opinions. You've got the gatekeepers, maybe in IT or legal, who can shut the whole thing down. Then there's the big boss, the decider, who gives the final thumbs up or thumbs down. You have the buyer, the person who actually signs the purchase order. And this is so important, you have the end users, the people who will actually have to live with your product every day. They can become your biggest fans or your worst nightmare. Now, it's never as simple as a neat little list. One person might play 2 or 3 of these roles. And sometimes a role like influencer isn't one person, it's an entire department. This is why the biggest mistake you can make is to only focus on the buyer, the person who physically signs the check. Because if you haven't won over the end users, gotten past the gatekeepers, and given the decider a reason to say yes, that signature is just never going to happen. You're building your whole deal on quicksand. So now that we know we're talking to this whole committee of people with different goals, how in the world do you convince all of them, especially when you know you're not the cheapest option out there? Well, the secret is learning to speak the one language that everyone in business understands, the language of value. There's this really interesting psychological idea called the compatibility principle. And all it really means is that when a decision is all about numbers, like comparing prices, our brains tend to focus only on the numbers. This is exactly why purchasing departments get stuck on price. It's the easiest number to point to and compare, and it completely overshadows all the other important stuff, like how reliable your product is or how great your service is. And that leads to this, the moment every salesperson hates. Your price is $2 million. Your competitor's is $1.5 million. On paper, you look like you're charging an extra $500,000 for no reason. If you let the conversation stay there, you're going to get dragged into a price war. And trust me, that is a war you do not want to fight. The only way to win is to change the battlefield completely. And here's how you do it. It's a method called economic value analysis. Basically, you do the homework for them. Look at this chart. You start by being upfront. Yeah, our price is higher. You see that minus $500,000 right there? We're not hiding it. But then, you start adding things back to your side of the ledger. Our product lasts 3 years longer? That's worth 450 grand. It breaks down less often? That saves you 200 grand a year. Better warranty, faster repairs. You put a dollar figure on every single advantage. You translate your features into their money. And look what happens. By the time you get to the bottom line, the entire story has changed. Suddenly, you're not the expensive option anymore. You are actually the option that delivers an extra $750,000 of pure bottom line value. The conversation is no longer about cost. It's about ROI. You didn't just defend your price, you proved that you are, without a doubt, the smarter financial move. So that's the big shift right there. You've got to stop selling features. We're more reliable as a feature. Our reliability saves you $200,000 a year in downtime? That's a financial impact. When you do that, you're not just justifying your price, you're handing the people who make the final call the exact business case they need to choose you and defend that choice to their boss. So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your own business. Are you just telling customers your price, or are you actively demonstrating your true quantifiable value? Because in the end, in the tough world of B2B sales, it's not the cheapest product that wins. It's the one with the best story and the best math.